We now begin the press conference by Prime Minister Kishida. First, we would like to hear a press conference. We would like to hear the speech from the Prime Minister. The floor is yours. Last week, in a general policy speech I made, I emphasized economy, and I stated our commitment, and this government put great importance on economic measures and pricing countermeasures. Today, the government and ruling parties have made decisions on general economic measures in order to totally exit from deflation. First of all, let me share our way of thinking on economic measures. Over the past 3 decades of the period after bubble economy burst, we are distressed from deflation in Japan. Japanese companies, especially the major companies, prioritize short-term better performance and secure and make profits by reducing the pricing, and they went ahead with the reduced cost. Let me dare to put it simply. They tried to curb wages and investment, and they put the burden to the subcontractors. When I took office, I held up the new form of capitalism because we believe that we have to stamp out this vicious cycle of the cost-cutting economy, which is the balanced contraction. Otherwise, we can't grow the Japanese economy yet again. Over the past 2 years, I tried to call for the business world with wage hike and capital expenditures, especially investment for R&D. And we tried to promote the pricing pass-through, and we tried to go all out to improve transaction practice of subcontractors. As a result of those campaigns and activities, we saw the highest wage hike in the spring wage negotiation, which is the first time over the past 30 years. And we saw the largest private investment and highest share price level over the past 30 years. And we are able to remove the deflationary gap of the 50 trillion Japanese yen. And the April to June GDP hit the record, whether it's a nominal and a real. Still, there are a way to grow. With wages and purchasing power of the family raised, consumption will grow, and then the pricing of the goods will moderately grow. That will turn into the better performance and better revenues of companies, and that will lure in the new investment, and then companies will go into the next chapter of the growth. And consequently, the wages can be higher. We are not able to complete this virtuous cycle yet. The key here is the wages rise and investment. The largest challenge of late is the fact that the wage hike doesn't catch up with the price rises. What is behind this? Some of the major companies were afford to raise wages, but many SMEs and micro businesses will not afford to do so. In order to totally exit from deflation and to see higher wages and investment growth and realizes the extended virtuous cycle, we need certain period of time. So this time, with this economic measures, we have two-phased measures. Number one, in the first phase approach, is that the countermeasures we are going to start in the calendar year this year, throughout the turn of the next year, we are going to launch life support measures. To be more specific, we would like to support the financially stricken families. We already gave the 30,000 yen per family, but in addition to it, we additionally give 70,000 yen per family, so total 100,000 Japanese yen per family. By doing so, we will support these families. And second phase measure is a campaign that starts next spring throughout next summer. We are going to launch real income boost measures. Towards the spring wage negotiation next year, I would like to be at the forefront and calling for the business world to raise wages that surpasses the data of this year. And at the same time, we think about the workers, the 70% of which are working for the SMEs. So we are going to do the tax system amendment the end of this year. And utilizing this amendment, we would like to expand and enrich wage hike tax systems so that loss-making SMEs and medical cooperation can utilize. And then we would like to support the better optimization and normalization of transactions, such as the reinforced pricing pass-through measures. And we would like to go all out to support the SMEs who raise wages. As such, we would like to prepare such an environment where the wage hike can be realized. But we are not necessarily sure the wages of the public can surpass that of the prices next year. But if we miss this opportunity this time, it will be challenging to exit from deflation. With the certainty, we have to grow disposable income and realize virtuous cycle of the consumption growth. To do that, next June, when the people will receive bonus payment, whether it's supporter or dependent, we would like to cut a fixed amount tax of the 40,000 yen, which covers 90 million people. And we would like to cut taxes of the income and the residence, which will total of over 3 trillion Japanese yen. Whether you are a supporter or a dependent, we would like to cut tax one by one and individually so that we are able to cut taxes, which is a child railing support type, which is unprecedented. For example, if you are raising 2 kids and you're able to enjoy the 160,000 Japanese yen of tax cuts. So next summer, we would like to combine the wage hike and reduce income tax. We would like to make sure that the general public income growth will surpass the pricing inflation so that we are able to see the exit from deflation.
I'm aware that some people say instead of reducing tax and giving cash benefits, then the benefits can be delivered earlier to the people. As I have already said, cash benefits are what we are going to do in the first phase as emergency livelihood support. On top of that, we are going to conduct income tax reduction, which is the second phase, real income boost measures and a measure to realize a virtuous cycle. From the point of view to support the income of the public extensively at the time of the bonus payment next summer, we are going to conduct a wage hike and income tax reduction, and through both ways, the effects will be reflected in the pay slips. So it's going to be a tangible results, and it's important for us to create such an environment. There are also some people that pointed out that in order to secure the defense budget and to address declining birth rate, we cannot avoid the increase of burden on the people. So we should not reduce tax. But there are priorities in policies, and the prioritization is important, more important than anything. The defense budget will be enhanced to 2% of GDP, and with that enhanced defense capability, we need to further maintain that even after 2027, and we need to secure the funding for that. In order to do that, and we need to protect people's livelihood, and we need to make sure to exit from deflation. So we need to realize economic growth. It is very important to realize that first. So while we reduce tax at the same time, we are not going to implement the tax measures to secure the funding for defense budget. On declining birth rate, through the promotion of digitalization, we will aim to make things more efficient. And through the Social Security reform, we're going to make sure that we're not going to increase the real burden on the people. And for the timeline, throughout several years, we are going to pursue the Social Security reform. So it's not something that runs counter to the income tax reduction that we are going to implement at this time. Without saying, a strong economy is the foundation of all policies. In my general policy speech, I said, economy, economy, economy. Because without economic revitalization, we will not be able to realize a strong national security and a sustainable social security. That's my firm belief. Our current top priority is to get out of deflation and to put our economy on a growing path. So economic revitalization comes first, and we would like to gain your understanding on that order, on that prioritization. And now we are at inflection point on whether or not we can have this exit from deflation, and we are going to mobilize every kind of policies to expand the disposable income of the people, and the income tax reduction is for that purpose, and I'd like to stress that. We want to expand the disposable income of the people to boost the earning power of Japan, and we are going to go all out to do so. We will support investment firmly. Currently, we are seeing investment which is the highest in our history, and we'd like to further reinforce this trend. With that, we want to make sure that the wage hike trend is going to be more certain so that we can run a virtuous cycle of growth and wage hike. The wage growth tax measures, we are going to expand the investment on people, which is the most important asset. And we want to further upgrade the tax measures so that the system can also be used by SMEs who couldn't use this system before because they were unprofitable. And the investment tax reduction and the strategic investment support in Kumamoto Prefecture, there is a large-scale investment in semiconductor, and a good quality employment have already been created, and the wage hikes are spreading. Semiconductors, storage batteries, EVs, in those strategic areas, we are seeing unprecedented tax systems and subsidizing systems. And we are going to attract large-scale investments across the country, one after another. Investment by SMEs to save energy and labor, from retails, eating establishments, accommodations, to manufacturing. There will be a catalog of menus to address labor shortage, to support the companies in a way that is favorable to them. Digitalization of logistics and transportation will also be promoted, and we will develop digital information paths and others. We will utilize autonomous driving truck to conduct a POV for logistics, and we will also support logistic investment to address the 2024 crisis. GX of living, which means that the families are also investors, installing heat pumps, renovating heat insulating windows, purchase subsidies for EVs, reducing utility costs. These are the measures we are going to take to support a comfortable life. Also about income ceiling, it's been pointed out for many years about the 1.06 million and 1.3 million ceiling. And now people are working without concerning about working hours and getting the desired income. So by removing the ceilings, we are already implementing specific supports. So through budget, tax schemes, regulatory reforms, we have incorporated various methods into our package. Especially for the regulatory reforms, there are 36 items on that. After 2013, this is the utmost in the economic package since 2013. And we are going to mobilize every kind of way to enhance our earning power. The size of the economic package is estimated at the lower range of 17 trillion yen in total. The top priority for me is exiting from deflation and putting our economy on a growth trajectory. When economy grows, tax revenues will grow, leading to fiscal consolidation. I'd like to call for understanding from our people about the prioritization, which is the economic revitalization. So with that in mind, we have formulated economic packages that includes the temporary income tax break. On the other hand, large-scale supplementary budgets have been formed to address COVID-19. Now that has settled down, so we are going to normalize the expenditure structure and we are going to uphold that policy. In formulating this economic package, we are going to use half of the 5 trillion yen of contingency fund to fund this economic package. And by the end of the year, we are going to form the budget, and we will strive to further normalize the expenditure structure. We have approved the economic package today, and we are going to formulate the supplementary budget that is going to be the support for the economic package. We will submit the budget to the extraordinary diet and aim for an early passage of that. A complete exit from the protected deflation is the biggest challenge to realize Japan that will be better tomorrow than today. And everyone in our country, including the government, the businesses, and the workers, have to work together on this. And the government is going to lead and pull out all the stops to realize that. And I'd like to continue to ask for the cooperation from our people.
We'd like to take questions from the floor. If we want to ask questions, please raise hand, state your name and affiliations, and approach the closest mic if you're given the go. First of all, leading media outlet. Katsumoto-san from Hokkaido newspaper. This is Fujimoto from Hokkaido newspaper. Thank you. The economic measures was announced especially on the reduced tax. You said as a part of the return measures that 40,000 yen of income tax and residence tax cuts, but that will come around next June. And in deliberations of diet, it's too late in order to support general public. It should come in the form of the benefits, some people say. Why do you think the benefit doesn't do the job? Why do you want the tax cuts? As you explained just minutes ago, other than low-income families, still there are families who are financially stricken even today. Given the current situation, I don't believe that many general public understand your message. Could you please elaborate once again on the clearer messages? And approval rate is on declining path, and income tax cut has been announced because that you want to call for snap election next year. Is it actually the thought behind these measures? Well, first of all, as I mentioned on the when exactly we're going to cut this tax, this July, there was an announcement on the mid-year calculation on estimate by the Cabinet Office. Some point in the next fiscal year, nominal wage growth will catch up with the pricing inflation, according to some estimates. And also according to the private economists, as we heard many views around it, the real wage will go into the positive territory, whether it's a fiscal year 2024 or 2025. When we think about those, next fiscal year is an important moment whether the wage hike can catch up with the pricing inflation in order to exit from deflation. We would like to narrow down objectives of this one, and we try to make sure not going back to the business as usual as a deflation. So as a one-off measure, we are going to cut fixed amount tax of the income tax and the residence tax. Next fiscal year's wage hike is extremely important. Then we think about when exactly we are going to start tax cutting. That has to come around the moment when we are able to have the great synergy with the wage hike. That is exactly when we have to do this. So that's why we said that next June, which is when the people will receive the bonus payment, then actually general public can see the payment slip of the combined benefits of the wage hike and fixed amount tax cut. And then they can actually feel that income has been undersupported by the government. As you pointed out, the benefits will be given for low-income families with a prioritized support, the grants of 1.6 trillion Japanese yen. Not only just we are saying the amount, but we would like to have a meticulous menu, especially recommended the project menu of the 500 billion Japanese yen to give support, meticulous support for the people and entities, depending upon the way things stand in each region. We would like to start this project this calendar year, and other than this, the energy alleviation measure will be launched. Especially in energy field has something to do with the general public life, and that will be extended to the next spring. And we will continue these measures. You touched upon dissolution. But as far as that dissolution is concerned, as I repeated many times, what we have to do now is to laser focus on challenges we cannot mothball any further. That is the only thing that is on my mind. I already shared my thinking on economy in the speech.
Chiba from Sankei newspaper, thank you. I want to ask about constitutional amendments. So in the start session, you said that you are going to aim for the amendment of the constitution during your term as the president of the LDP. To be specific, in the discussion at the Commission on the Constitution of the House of the Representative, the state of emergency clause has been the draft has been put together by the ruling parties and the opposition parties. So. And you also mentioned that you accelerated the discussion in the party and about making the state of emergency clause in the Constitution. How are you going to exert your leadership? And the ordinary session and at the Commission on the Constitution at the lower house, there was a summarization of the discussion points over the state of emergency clause. And there are very active discussions, and that is welcomed, and I want to express my respect to that. However, I'm the head of the government, and I should refrain from making comments and specific comments on the legislative. However, on the constitutional amendment, at the end of the day, we need to have the judgment from the public. So at the Diet session, in order to start the procedure, we need to have active discussions and more active discussions. That's what I expect. And at the same time, as the president of LDP, in order to accelerate the discussions in the party, and I will expand the members and also to have a strong resolve towards the discussion. And I'd like to continue to show my resolve. That's what I'm going to do as the president.
Nishinohara-san, go ahead. Shinohara from TV Tokyo. Thank you, Prime Minister. It might sound rude, but on the internet, there's some people call you as the somebody who wear glasses, who want to increase taxes. So you had some impression that we were willing to raise taxes. How do you see them? And when we think about increased tax, maybe you are too aware of it and you want to dispel it. That's why you want to go ahead with this reduced tax. Some people actually say so. What do you have to say on this? Yes, as you said, I am wearing glasses that who want to go ahead with the increased tax, and some people call me that way. Yes, I do know this. But how people call me doesn't really remind me. Whatever the names that people call me, I like to be committed to the things that I think that is right. Be it economic measures and reinforced defense countermeasures, and also child rallying support measures and energy policies. In all of these are all for the sake of general public and for the sake of Japanese economy. And this is something I believe that should be done. And as we have done, I like to be committed on the policies that I believe. The order of the policies and the way we launched the campaign, that has to come with a little bit of innovation. But as far as a thing that I believe that is right, that has to be decided and executed, and we would like to value my stance in that way.
Osagi from Tokyo newspaper. Relating to increasing tax to secure the funding for defense budget, and in the beginning you said the order is very important, but last year you decided to increase tax to fund defense budget, and this year you decided to reduce tax. And it's not going to be implemented next year for a tax increase because the relevant laws have not been passed yet. I understand that, but the way that you send a message, do you think that is really convincing? Do you think the order was convincing? On the other hand, you just said that you want to do what you believe in. Then on the relevant laws of the defense budget, are you going to submit that to the Diet next year? The economic measures and the reinforcement of defense capabilities, both are important challenges for Japan that cannot be postponed. And reinforcing defense capability is something that we tackled from last year. And the economic situation has been changing all the time, and a new form of capitalism. We have been working on wage hike and investment, and we finally started to see some hope, and we have to seize this opportunity. We have to materialize the opportunity. That's why we have decided on this economic package. And the linkage between the two about the tax system to secure the fund for defense capabilities on income tax, the burden on the households should not be increased. That's what I said. On income tax, the income tax is going to be reduced, and the tax system, the tax measures for defense capability, these two are not contradictory. The tax measures to reinforce defense capability, the corporate tax is going to play a big role. And about 90% of the corporations will be excluded. So we have to make sure that it does not run counter to the economy. We have to accumulate the discussions. And on the timing to implement that, in the cabinet approval that we made last year, towards the 2027, we are going to spend multiple years to prepare the tax measures. And after 2027, we need to be able to maintain the fund. So towards the 2027, we are going to accumulate the source of income. That's what we confirmed. In doing so, wage growth and the economy need to be paid due attention to. So that's why, like I said before, now we have to focus on the economy. And the tax measures towards the reinforcement of defense capabilities, at least till next year, we are not ready to start that. So that's what I've been saying. Economic measures and defense capability reinforcement, both are important issues. And then the ongoing economy. At this point of view, it is important at the current moment, and we have to implement the economic measures to get out of the deflation so that we can support the defense capabilities that we need to reinforce in the future. And that's the order in our policy.
Kawa-san from Shinano Mainichi newspaper. Thank you. On declining birth rate countermeasures in child rearing policies, in order to have a free of charge school mealing, you need to investigate the issues on challenges, and within 1 year you're going to share those investigations results. And in order to subsidize some medical fee for kids, there are some differences between local governments, and same support should be given to kids wherever people live. Please give us your stance on this. Yes, school mealing fee. We are currently investigating, and we are trying to list out the discussion points in order to make them free of charge. But as far as the fee for school mealing is concerned, from the government perspective, with a natural protection, we are trying to subsidize them, and also the schooling assistance has been given. And those are the supporting countermeasures of the local governments, and the central government has supported those local governments' policies. And currently pricing inflation is going on in this country. And from our perspective, that the prioritized support the regional grounds and the recommended menu will be utilized, and most of the local governments were able to curve the increase the pricing. That means that we're able to reduce the burden on family. That's where we are. And with this economic measures, we're utilizing the prioritized support the regional grounds, and 500 billion Japanese yen of the recommended project menu will be further utilized to reduce the burden. That's what I stated. I believe you mentioned discrepancies and gaps between the regions and between the local governments, but in such school mealing fee need to be curbed, and that will be supported by the central government. And that's a setup we were going to continue to support, and so that the wide areas that we are able to support these local governments. We continue such an efforts as we go forward.
それでは NHK 清水さん。NHK の清水です。
Shimizu from NHK. My question is about the fiscal policy. As the tax revenues increase, there is the tax reduction and the cash benefits are incorporated into the return policy, and the achievement of the fiscal consolidation is set at 2025. Are you going to uphold that policy? And considering inflation and the current livelihood, will you be able to be flexible? The conclusion for primary balance to make it profitable in 2025. That is the goal for the fiscal consolidation. There's no change to that goal. And with the economic measures this time, in terms of the fiscal policy, even if there will be a one-off negative impact, Japan has been suffering from deflation for many years. If we can exit from it completely, then in the mid to long term, this is going to have a positive effect on the fiscal policy. So as stock, the debt balance can be reduced, or the tax revenues increase can contribute to the fiscal consolidation, which means that the primary balance can be improved. So that's what's going to happen, we believe. And I said that the economy is a foundation for the fiscal policy. So we have to restore the economy, and we are also going to work on fiscal consolidation, and that will be our continuous stance.
Times
Niniba-san from Japan Times. Ninibach from Japan Times. Thank you, Prime Minister. In inbound strategy, the October after COVID-19, that you started to open the border for the inbound travelers, and the foreign tourists were going back to the pre-COVID levels, and the number of the people who are staying in Japan have hit the great levels. But there were some challenges mounting. By 2025, that 32 million people and above, we would like to hit those numbers. But is there any long-term strategies we would like to implement? And there were shortages of talents that has become more serious. How would you like to secure talents for these challenges? Yes, the October last year, we relaxed the border control, and the sightseeing sector started to recover rapidly. The foreign tourists' consumption amount target was 5 trillion, but we are able to advance that goal. And that comes into the realm of opportunity and possibility. The following those countermeasures. various countermeasures will be launched as we did. So in 2030, the 60 million foreign tourists and consumption amount of the 15 trillion Japanese yen, that is a target we would like to aim for. Sightseeing spots and sightseeing sectors need to add more values and high values. And then also we need to make sure those two, the general public life and those bustling sightseeing sector needs to coexist. And we need to realize that environment. And some regions are seeing flock of the foreign tourists, and depending upon the time and period, intensive congestions and some violation of protocols, and satisfaction level actually lowers depending upon the tourists. Some people say, and this is so-called over-tourism. Those are the problems that we are hearing. But from our perspective, we need to thwart this event over tourism, and we need to curtail them. And the last month, we were able to formulate those countermeasures. And in this economic countermeasures, this is included. In other words, the over tourism prevention, and also creating contents, and also the countermeasures against the shortage of talents. In other words, we try to create an environment where we can accept the foreign tourists. By having those environments, we can realize sustainable sightseeing, which is important. We do have a targets and towards which we would like to make an effort, but at the same time, we need to watch the over-tourism issue, and we would like to take a balance of those issues.
Asahi
Muramatsu with Asahi Newspaper, thank you. On tax reduction, so it sounds like there was a question that the tax reduction is to remove the impression of tax increase, and so it appears to be sudden for many people. And as a Prime Minister, when did you decide to implement tax breaks? What is the history so far? And the additional tax revenues worth 2 years of the tax amount, and your administration was launched 2 years ago. So could you also explain why did you decide to return the tax revenues for the amounts that accumulated over the past 2 years? Your question is about how I decided on the tax breaks. When I studied the economic package, it's also related to how do we see the current economic situation. That's where we started the discussion. And over the past 2 years, our efforts on realizing a new form of capitalism, we have started to see some hope, and whether or not we can make that sustainable, we realize it's important to exit from deflation, and that's a starting point for all the discussions. As I said earlier, we have to boost our earning power, and we want to make efforts to make it sustainable. But now we have the global energy crisis. There are also many external challenges, the high inflations, and the wage hike hasn't caught up with the inflations, which is something that we are working on. But if people do not have enough disposable income, the consumption will be undermined. So next year, of course, the wage will grow further. And also through supporting and expanding disposable income, we can prevent the shrinkage of consumption, and also to realize a virtuous cycle of growth and distribution. That's where we want to reach. So disposable income needs to be supported, and we need to think of a way to do that. And when we thought of that, a way to do that is to give cash benefits or to cut tax. And there are also people who are in urgent needs, and there are people who are suffering economically, and those who are child-rearing households. So the timing for giving the benefits and the timing for tax breaks have to be considered. The combination has to be considered. So, and for tax breaks, there are many kinds of tax. We chose income tax and reduce the income tax starting at next June, when people are going to get their bonus payment. And for the past 2 years, I started my administration 2 years ago, and we've been working together with the private sector to operate the economy. And then people have suffered from COVID-19. That's also what people have been through over the past 2 years. So as a result, the tax, especially the after COVID-19, we have enjoyed an additional tax revenues of 3.5 trillion of income and resident tax, and we want to use that to support, to expand the disposable income. And we believe that it's appropriate to do it in a way that's easy for people to understand. So we decided to return part of the tax revenues directly to the public through income and the residence tax breaks. So these are the things that we have in mind in reaching this decision. We have accumulated many discussions and considerations, and we decided on this economic package that I've introduced in the beginning.
それでは大変恐縮。
これは経済対策。
So I announced this economic package today, but up until today, during the preparation of that, as the government, the basic policy has been shown to the ruling parties. And up until then, we had accumulated many discussions.
あと総理の
I'm afraid there is official duty coming up for the Prime Minister, so the 2 questions to go.
フリーランスの横
Yokota Freelance, thank you. Invoice system introduction. The other day, over 500,000 signatures for objection have been submitted, as you are aware. Now, stands for really vulnerable and income is low for freelance, and those micro businesses will struggle. Undoubtedly, you have a deduction of 3 years, but there are some companies and there are some organizations have to close the businesses. That timing will be just extended. And you said that there is nothing that you can deny for now, but that we would like to review the reduce the tax system and the multiple tax system. Whether or not you should go ahead with that or not, would you like to ask for the mandate from general public? Well, we do not have any considerations of the reduced income tax, consumption tax, but reduced tax rate system. In the first place, when we raise a consumption tax, we need to pay consideration for low-income households. This is a system that we introduced in the day-to-day operation, day-to-day life, that many general public will consume things and utilize. And the burden on the consumption tax can be directly reduced so that the regressiveness of this tax can be curbed, and expecting that effects, we have introduced the system. So reduced tax rate system will be abolished. In other words, reviewing the multiple tax system, that is not under consideration or review. But in this invoice system, as you said, with reduced tax rate system, in order to maintain that system, That is important system, I think. There were some anxieties, as you said, from SMEs and micro businesses, as you pointed out. We are fully aware of those voices. But ever since we decided to introducing that system, we have long explained this, and there are various rescue countermeasures that we have launched. That we are currently seeing the situation and a follow-up, and to dispel the concerns, and meticulous support response will be given, and that stance is important. So we try to gain understanding on the invoicing system from general public, and we continue our efforts.
AP 山口さん。
Yamaguchi with AP. My question is about Alpes treated waters ocean discharge. And on August 24th, the discharge started, and IAEA reports, etc., that has been proceeded, but China is continuing its import ban on Japan's fishery products. And Japan, how is Japan going to address China? For example, WTO trial or lawsuit, are you considering that? So including with Japan-China relations in mind, would you elaborate on your thoughts on that? On Alps treated water, based on scientific evidence with transparency, we have explained, and that's our consistent approach to this issue. We have communicated to the international community with clear explanation, and many countries understood Japan's stance based on scientific evidence. However, some countries, without basing themselves on scientific evidence, they are implementing export ban on Japan's fishery products. To those countries, also on a bilateral level, we will continue to carefully explain our stance and request those countries to remove those restrictions, including WTO in the international arena. On various international forums, we also need to communicate our thoughts and stance on a continuous manner, and including the WTO lawsuit. What is the most speedy and effective approach is something we need to consider, including whether or not to file a WTO complaint. But we should utilize the international forums and platforms to communicate Japan's stance, and I think that's the right way to do. In relation to China, including this issue, we will continue our dialogues to build a constructive and stable relations. And that kind of relations need to be maintained. China is our neighboring country, and is also our largest trading partner. And because China is our neighbor, we have many issues amongst ourselves, but we will continue to claim what we have to claim and urge China to fulfill its responsibilities. Is a big country. And on issues that we can collaborate together, we should cooperate. So a constructive and a stable relations have to be established through mutual efforts, and that will remain the same. And through diplomatic channels, including APEC, there are upcoming diplomatic events there will be dialogues, and we don't have any decisions yet, but we will uphold our stance, and we'd like to communicate in a close manner with China, including high-level talks, and that's what Japan is continue to put values on. With that, we will conclude today's press conference. For those who are raising your hands, please email us your questions and we will get back to you later. Thank you very much for your cooperation.